So what are corporate minutes, and does my business need to keep corporate minutes? My name is Andrew Ayers. I'm a business law and estate planning attorney with offices in Edina, Minnesota and New York City. And today we're going to look at why it's important for businesses to keep corporate minutes, and we'll also go through a quick checklist of some best practices for your company to keep those corporate minutes. It's one of those little things that goes a long way towards legal compliance. It can protect you down the road. So it's that pebble that you don't want to trip on. It's not a mountain, but it's a pebble that's easy to trip on. So when we've set up your company, the next step after filing with the state is to create our corporate documents. And in those corporate documents, we often will have an operating agreement, we'll have resolutions, we'll have other writings of members and owners and shareholders as we get that company set up and going. Now, if you're using an online service, they often just give you the forms and they expect you to fill them out on your own, and then you're off on your way and there's not much else to do. However, if you are running a business, in most states there's another document that you need to keep an eye on, and that would be your corporate minutes. If you think of your corporate minutes, they're kind of like a journal entry. So they're talking about what the company's doing. And if it's just you running your company, you may not think that you really need to put these together. But if you have partners, when you're making big decisions, sometimes people will want to see a copy of your corporate minutes. So when I'm working with the businesses that I represent, we want to make sure that if we have big decisions or we have meetings, that our corporate minutes are being put together. And it doesn't have to be challenging, it doesn't have to be complicated, but you need to make sure you're getting it done. And you may also be asking, what am I doing with corporate minutes? Is there somewhere I have to put them? I don't even know what to do. Well, if you set up your company, hopefully you have one of these, some kind of a binder that contains all of your major corporate documents. It can hold your share certificates, your operating agreement, your formation documents. It doesn't have to be that fancy black with the gold trim, but somewhere you need to make sure you have your corporate documents together so that you have them in one place in case they need to be inspected. Because many times your shareholders, your owners, have a right to inspect these documents. And so if you're in some kind of a dispute with another partner or one of the other owners, they have a right to actually ask a court for permission to inspect the documents, and you want to make sure you can easily provide those documents so there's no issue. So why are these corporate minutes important? It's not something you've probably heard of a lot, and why would you need to keep them? So they're important for three main reasons. First of all is legal compliance. So most states actually require corporations to keep minutes. They reflect what's been happening with your business, major decisions that have been made, and other transactions. If you think in the news, you see these stories about like the Berkshire Hathaway annual meetings where Warren Buffett will get up on stage and talk about what the company's done. We have these big meetings with all the shareholders. It's kind of like that, but there's somebody there who's taking minutes. So they're taking down everything that's said, and then there's a notation in the corporate books for Berkshire Hathaway or Apple or any major company that says what happened to these minutes, what happened to these meetings, what was voted on, what happens next. The second reason we need to keep these corporate minutes together is for liability protection. So especially if you're just running your own business or it's just you and a partner and you're putting things together, these minutes can properly show that whatever you've been doing, you've agreed to them, and that you're acting in the best interest of the company. So a common claim that's made against a single member or a smaller company is that the owner or the owners were just acting in their own interest. They weren't doing things correctly. They're trying to use the company to hide money, whatever the claim may be. If you have corporate minutes, as part of that lawsuit, you can show that actually we had this discussion. We talked about it and we decided this is the best path forward for our company. So we were not trying to defraud our investors. We weren't trying to screw over our shareholders. This was actually what we were trying to do in the best interest of the company. And number three, it's good to have a financial record. So when we're making these big decisions, especially if we're going to be committing capital or money from the company to buy something or sell something or these big transactions, it's good to have corporate minutes. If you're working with your banker, they may actually ask you for a copy of the corporate minutes that approve something like using Chase Bank for this transaction, or using this company for lending, or using this company for a mortgage. So the corporate minutes can be used to show that this just wasn't the CEO going off on a whim and borrowing $2 million. This was the board of directors having a meeting, discussing it, and deciding, yes, the company is going to borrow $2 million to fund their next great project in the next fiscal year. So those are the three reasons we want to make sure we have our corporate minutes. And then the next step for a lot of people is, what does a corporate minute have to look like? I don't understand what the document does. What do we do next? So I've got a quick little checklist of about 10 things we can go through, and they'll tell you a little bit about how to do your corporate minutes. And of course, if you need help at the end of this video, you can reach out, we can connect and go through corporate minutes for your business. First thing on the list is you can use a template. You can either create a template on your own or find one online, or frankly get one from your lawyer. But the point of the template is you don't have to create a new type of minutes every time you have a meeting. You can have one set of corporate minute templates. So every time you have a big meeting, you just pull up the template, you put in the minutes, it's then voted on by the shareholders, or the members, or the owners, and then it's approved at the next meeting. Next thing you want to do is follow an agenda. So when you're having a meeting that's going to result in corporate minutes, you want to have an agenda. It's like any other meeting in life. You don't want to just sit around a table and just talk for hours and hours. Let's have an agenda. And this also makes it easier for us to keep the minutes because we know what we're going to be talking about, and whoever's keeping the minutes can make sure to put the appropriate information in the appropriate sections. Next, I always tell people to get to the point. You only need to record essential information. You don't necessarily have to say Steve was wearing a blue shirt and Diane didn't wear earrings that day. It can be as detailed as you want to be, but keep it to the important things and get to the point. Nobody wants to review 90, 100-page minutes if they don't have to. You can often summarize and get to the point in your minutes. You want to include discussions. So if there have been discussions and debates about making a big decision, do we want to go with Bank A or Bank B? Steve says Bank A, Joe says Bank B, and the reasons for that debate. This will then show down the road if there's a problem because we chose Bank A, we can see everybody was discussing why Bank A was the better option over Bank B. So we want that discussion to be included in our corporate minutes. Corporate minutes need to be signed and they need to be dated. So the person who's going to take the minutes for you, after they've typed it up, after they've been approved, they need to be signed, and the date that they are signed, they should be dated as well. So we have a good record. Again, we want to have our signed document in our corporate binder so we know where to find them if this comes up. We also want to regularly maintain our minutes. Once again, it's going to go in the binder I just showed you. We have a whole section for minutes so that we can have all the different meetings and all the different minutes over the years in case we need to look back, and especially if you get involved in any kind of a dispute or litigation, those minutes are easily accessible. We need to be objective, so when we're putting in the document what happened, try to make it objective. Don't try to make it your opinion. Like Joe was being crazy and talking about Bank A, but Steve was much more level-headed when he talked about Bank B. Just keep it to the facts. Steve said Bank A because, Joe said Bank B because. If there's documents that were reviewed as part of the meeting, they can be included in your minutes as well. We want to attach those important documents, especially if there were either resolutions or financing documents or something important for the business that was reviewed and is referenced in the minutes. We want to make sure that those are attached. And then finally, there's the review and the approval stage. What happens is after we've done all the work in the corporate minutes, we've summarized them, we put them all together, we want to pass them around to all the people at the meeting. We want to pass it around to the owners, the shareholders, make sure everybody approves the minutes, and that can be at a formal meeting or you can approve them informally as each person signs off and says yes. And this also gives you a chance to really see what was said. What happens a lot of times is you may be at a meeting and you may be talking about something and you've got in your head what you want to say, but then you read it in the minutes and realize, wait a second, that's not really what I meant to say. And if that's the case, then we have to figure out why the minutes don't reflect what was in your head, and maybe we need to have a further discussion on that topic or make some kind of changes. But it's important that we review and approve the minutes after they're all done. So that's a quick checklist that you and your company can use when you're putting together your corporate minutes. If you have more questions or you and your company need some help, you can go to my website, 𝙃𝙀𝙍𝙀𝙒. There's a red legal strategy session button at the top. If you click it, you'll be taken to my scheduling page where we can set up a legal strategy session. It's a 15 or 20-minute phone call where we'll talk about some of the questions you have, where you are in the process, and give you some next steps for where you can go from there. If you like this video, I'd love it if you can hit the thumbs up or the like button below. You can go over to YouTube or ayerslawtv.com and subscribe for future videos, and I look forward to seeing you in our next video.